Hello and welcome to a new video. Today I'm riding the Honda Navi and I'm recording this in October, on October 19th. So there is a bit of, fall foliage. I know I had a recent video where I said the words fall foliage a lot. So I'll try to avoid repeating that word ad nauseum in this video. But, let's see, I don't know if I can go, guess I can. So today my plan is to go by the University of Louisville and to go by Old Louisville. Because I think I've briefly gone through parts of Old Louisville before, but not really the full neighborhood. And I've gone by U of L on the e-bikes, but not on this Honda Navi. And I figured, since there are a lot of ghost stories about Old Louisville, that wouldn't be a bad place to ride by. Not that I know all the history of them, or particularly believe ghost stories, but I usually find them interesting nonetheless. And I will be going by... So I'll start out going by U of L, University of Louisville. I'm not going to go through the entirety of the campus, and two, school's in session, and this is a motorcycle, so I'm not going to ride it through the campus or anything. I'll just ride it through some of the side roads that go past some portion of it. And it's a relatively cool day. It's in the 50s. The sun is out, however, so that makes it a little bit more tolerable. And I'm wearing one of my little bit thicker jackets. I'm wearing a full face helmet, which always helps keep a little bit of the cool wind out of your face. Something that is interesting, in any part of the U.S., especially the South, when turning circles are introduced, there's usually a lot of confusion. Luckily, in this area, the turning circle has been in place long enough that I think people have probably caught up with how it works. But I know that there are some areas that introduce a turning circle, and it's quite hilarious to see what people think that it means, or how they think it's supposed to be used. Yeah, so this is on Floyd Street, so it's at the front of the Student Activity Center for the university and some of the sports fields. So to the right are, the buildings that are, the entrance to the Student Activity Center. There's parking garages. To the left, there are some fields and sports facilities, and a McDonald's. That's been there forever. So, like I said, I'm just cutting through part of this. I'm not going through the entirety of campus. So I'm going to cut through this little overpass that they've put in through here. It'll bring me out to, I think, 3rd Street, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so the Brook Street. Yeah, so they, years ago built this road that goes through here, that goes behind the football stadium. And then you can also see the baseball stadium from it. And then it goes by some of the engineering and science buildings and some of the band stuff, some of the band practice facilities and storage areas. Looks like there's some band practice or some type of flag type stuff going on right now. Oh, then over to the left, you may not be able to see it, there was some band, students with their band instruments practicing. You know, football season is in swing for college football, so there'll be a lot of songs being played at the games by the band. And then basketball season's just around the corner. To the left, that's a football practice facility, the Traeger Center. I'm not sure exactly what's ever going to happen with this section over here on the right. Looks like there may have been I forget what's going on in this part, but yeah. And then on the left is the actual football stadium, which hopefully is visible. Cardinal Stadium, where they play football. And then I'm not sure how visible it'll be over here on the left, because I'm not sure how high it is, or what it's going to see. But there is the baseball stadium, the Jim Patterson baseball stadium is over to the left as well. Now we're going to turn right onto 3rd Street. I can't see. One thing that's an interesting side effect of everybody, for the most part, or a large amount of people driving SUVs and trucks, is when you're on a car that sits a little bit lower, or a bike, it can be harder to get a clear view of traffic to know when you're good to go. I don't know if anybody's watched, the other videos I've done. I've used a lot of different camera setups over the recent videos, just because of the helmet I was wearing, because some of them have GoPro or camera mounts. Some of them don't, are a little bit tougher to get things mounted to them, or I need to use a chest mount or something. So this camera that I'm using today is the Insta360 1-inch sensor 360 camera. And I also did something I usually don't do, which is I set the camera settings to manual so that it won't change. Because a lot of times when you watch people doing moto vlogs, most people are just recording on a GoPro set to automatic settings. So when you're in the shade, it'll adjust to be a little bit less dark. But then once you go back out into the sunlight, then it's all blown out, then it readjusts. So for this one, I just set it to manual settings. And then if I'm in the shade, it might be a little bit dark. But it won't fluctuate, and the white balance is set, so it won't change either. Because sometimes the way colors look will change on those cameras as well, and it's usually just because of automatic white balance being used. Alright, so now about to enter into Old Louisville. About to cross Cardinal Boulevard. Now we're on South 2nd Street. South 2nd, about to cross Cardinal Boulevard. These lights can take a while sometimes. But I'll loop through some of Old Louisville. I don't personally know all the ghost stories throughout. there's a tour you can take that I had wanted to do. I just hadn't gotten around to it yet. And I have a book about that kind of stuff too. I just haven't read it. But, you know, in addition to ghost stories that are based on stuff that nobody can really verify, you know, somebody died in the 1800s, but there's no records or no way to prove or disprove that it happened. There are actually real murders and things that occurred. There's one where a guy was killed and kept in a container that was hidden in a basement or something. So there are real tragedies, in addition to the more, you know, high concept ghost stories. But this neighborhood, Old Louisville, is where there is one of the largest, right, the largest collection of Victorian style homes around. You know, just a lot of Victorian style homes that were built up in the past, in the, you know, 1800s, early 1900s. And at one point, you know, a lot of them were, you know, single family homes that would have, you know, attendants and servants and things like that. Then after the World Wars and stuff, some of them got broken, you know, after World War I and II, and after shifting demographics, some of them got split up into multiple apartments versus being, you know, single family homes. So I'll turn here in a second and go past some of the more ornate homes. Well, I guess I can go past, I'll go to the St. James Court. Then I'll loop back around through some of these neighborhoods. So the St. James Court is just a neighborhood that has a court with a fountain. And it's near Central Park. Now, the Central Park in Louisville, Kentucky is nowhere near as nice or the size of Central Park in New York, but it is a Central Park nonetheless. Which is to the right. That is where Central Park is. They have Shakespeare in the Park there pretty frequently in the summers. So this is St. James Court. And this is where there's a court that is where the fronts of the homes are facing to the court, and it's accessible, you know, by through traffic and pedestrians. Some of the neighborhoods around here have courts that are not, you know, outward facing like that, where just everybody can go and access it. But St. James Court, you know, is accessible. And they do have, at the beginning of October, there's typically an art fair that they'll have, the St. James Court Art Fair, where it's throughout Old Louisville, and there's vendors that have art and crafts. You can also get food and drink. And there's lanterns throughout. So this is the fountain. Which is turned on and in service today. I know some of the videos I've come through it in the winter, where that obviously would not be turned on because it'd be too cold. It'd be freezing up. Yeah, a lot of beautiful homes in here. You know, very historic homes. then I guess too I can go loop around by the Witch's Tree. So it's right by the St. James Court area. It's just like a block over, pretty much. And it's just where they're, I forget the lore, but there's a tree that's called the Witch's Tree that was supposed to involve the witchcraft. It's a pretty distinctive tree. It's got a lot of bumps and knots and such on it, and people leave offerings. So go look at that. Maybe I lied. It's a block and a half, or 2 blocks. It's a couple blocks from St. James Court to get there. But you can cut through. You can cut through Central Park to get there. It looks like people are putting stuff around and turn around. Yeah, it's this tree over here to the right. People decorate it and put stuff on it. Yes, now I'll go back and go down 3rd Street. There's, historic looking churches through here. Just a lot of cool architecture. It's relatively close to the University of Louisville as well. So when I was in college, a lot of people we were friends with lived in apartments nearby the campus area that were down through here. I personally just lived on campus and then at home a couple years. But then, I did go and attend a number of gatherings that were held at apartments people lived in this general vicinity. Just a lot of really cool houses that, it's a very distinct look. There are neighborhoods in Louisville that are, far more high income and ornate. It's just a different feel, because a lot of these are kind of these cool historic looking homes, and you don't really get that from stuff that's all just more modern. And two, you can just think about, what was life like in these neighborhoods 100 years ago, the kind of thing that a lot of, neighborhoods full of McMansions that were built in the past 20 years, what was this 100 years ago? It was just a field. As opposed to here, it was where a lot of people lived early on. Now, and like the development and build out of the interstate highway structure, encourage people to spread out and live across the city versus living in more densely populated areas around the downtown side. Stuff like that just changes over time. Let's see, I'm going to loop around instead of getting stuck by a school bus a bunch. So that was 3rd Street. There are some cool restaurants and bars through here that I've gone to over the years. This is Hill Street. There are a lot of distinctive homes and locations around these neighborhoods. You know, this Honda Navi is the perfect kind of bike just to cruise around something like this, because it's not, you know, it's not able to go on the highway. It's not able to do highway speeds. But cruising around at a moderate pace in neighborhoods, you can absolutely do that. And it gets pretty good gas mileage, so it's not just burning a ton of gas doing this either. And then the fall, you know, the nice orange, yellow, red colors from the fall. Looks very nice. Back to Mag Bar, which I came through earlier. That is a Magnolia Bar. It's a neighborhood bar that's been around for a long time. And it's quite prominent because I just remember it seems like about every month there's a car that crashes into the bar. There's always a joke about people crashing into. I'm not quite sure why everyone crashes into that bar, but they do. Yeah, so this is 3rd Street again. These roads do have bike lanes. I mean, they're not protected bike lanes, but it's at least not on the shoulder of the road. So what I'll do is I'll go down to the end of 3rd Street, and I'll turn right and I go to 4th Street, and I'll go back up and I'll wrap this video up, because I think those are kind of the main streets to see. Then once you get to the end of these streets, or, you know, once you get to the end of kind of the Old Louisville portion of the streets, you're back down by the university, and restaurants and buildings and stuff. And two, something I would say is the areas around here. Let's see. I probably need to be paying attention here at this light. Well, I think I'm allowed to turn right on red. But yeah, this area, you know, it's right by the university. You know, there are restaurants and shops and stuff. But this area isn't super heavily gentrified or anything. And that's just, where developers come in and redo everything and kick out all the original tenants and homeowners and price them out. And then have a neighborhood where it's swanky and high end and, just kind of changes the feel of it. There's definitely those parts where that's happened. But, it's still a relatively diverse neighborhood. And, if you keep going down, you'll go to downtown Louisville. Or not down, if you keep going up, if you keep going north, you'll go to downtown Louisville. And the areas around downtown Louisville. As I've mentioned, there are bars and restaurants through here, and I think there's an art gallery or two, and some other different types of buildings. I would assume this is a cool area to go trick-or-treating in if you have kids or are yourself a child. Or you just want to go trick-or-treating and have the occasional person tell you no, you're too old. And it's just one of the parts of the city that reminds you of what you might see in a larger city. Because a lot of Louisville is just suburban sprawl. Big subdivisions and neighborhoods that are, or cul-de-sacs and places where, you really can't walk or bike places. You have to hop in the car and drive the 2 miles to go somewhere because there's literally no sidewalks. The downtown Louisville area, like the Old Louisville area, feels a little bit more like what you get, in a larger city. But, there are drawbacks that come with that as well, crime and having to park on the street or because I know a lot of people who are one of their greatest fears is having to park on the street, not having a driveway. I mean, I have a driveway, so I do enjoy that. So I guess I can't be too harsh on that. But yeah, now I'm heading towards Old Louisville. Or not Old Louisville, I'm heading towards Louisville. Yeah, so now I'm heading towards downtown Louisville, and if you probably can't see because this is a wide angle kind of fisheye lens, but way, way, way off in the distance is 4th Street Live, which is an entertainment district. But I'm going to turn around and stop before I get there. But yes, I was riding the Honda Navi. I went past U of L's, University of Louisville's campus, went through Old Louisville, and now I'm heading towards downtown Louisville. But yeah, that'll wrap up this ride. Until next time.